Welcome to This Must Be the Place. I'm your host, Alo Galinsky. Each week, I'll uncover what's happening in Sonoma County, diving into the hidden gems and quirky corners. I'll be interviewing some of our local legends, as well as people you didn't know you need to know, all through the eyes of a craft beer enthusiast living in wine country. Join me as we explore one sip, one story, and one adventure at a time, and together we'll find out why this must be the place. Today we welcome Tim Keeler, the music director of the GRAMMY Award-winning vocal ensemble Chanticleer, an institution celebrated globally for its seamless sound across genres, ranging from Renaissance polyphony to contemporary jazz. A former countertenor in the ensemble himself, Tim brings a unique perspective to leading an orchestra of voices, crafting the ensemble's renowned blend and artistic vision. Beyond the stage, he is deeply committed to music education and community engagement, striving to share the transformative power of the human voice. Chanticleer always loves to come home for the holidays, and amidst a swell of Bay Area performances, we'll be performing a Chanticleer Christmas on Thursday, December 18th at 5 and 7:30 p.m. at the St. Vincent de Paul Church in Petaluma. Let's delve into the world of Chanticleer and discover how Tim is shaping the future of choral music. Welcome, Tim.
Great to be here, Alo. Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to have you on This Must Be the Place. And as I mentioned before we got on here, Chanticleer holds a special place in my heart as somebody who has both performed with the ensemble and seen the ensemble in various formats in my high school and college days. So this will be a fun conversation, and I'm excited to dig in.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I love talking to anybody who has come up, especially through the sort of education programs in the Bay Area. There's always so much joy and love in that music connection.
And we'll dig into that a little later on. But why don't we go ahead and start off talking about your musical journey and how you became involved with Chanticleer?
Yeah, totally. I bet my first experience with Chanticleer is like most people's, which is to say, I remember, I think it was my senior year of high school, walking across the lawn at my parents' house at night, listening to a Chanticleer CD on a CD, like a portable CD player. And it was the first time I had heard a Chanticleer album. I think my aunt gave me the CD, and I just had no idea what I was listening to. I couldn't believe the sounds that were coming into my ears. And to think that this was like an American ensemble and made up of these 12 singers, countertenors, tenors, and basses, it had never heard anything like it before. And I was immediately transfixed. I actually remember exactly the song it was too. It was a Magnificat by Andrea Gabrieli. And I just was blown away. 12 voice Magnificat. And ever since then, it's sort of been, Chanticleer's been sort of top of mind. I did my degrees in music in school. I thought maybe I'd do computer science, but really it was music that I was always most drawn to, and the community around choral music in particular. So eventually I found myself studying choral conducting. And then a friend convinced me to go audition for Chanticleer actually in 2014. And this is when I was just finishing up my graduate degree in choral conducting. I didn't really know what I was going to do after that, but I came out to San Francisco and auditioned, had a fantastic time, and didn't get in then. There was no room for me at that point. So I went to New York City and sang for a few years as a freelance countertenor. And then I got a call in the summer of 2017 from the music director then, William Fred Scott. And they said they had an opening. Would I like to come sing? And so I said, absolutely. I will get on a plane immediately and come to San Francisco. And had a terrific year singing with the group then. And then I actually went back to school and got my doctorate in choral conducting because I always knew that I wanted to conduct eventually. And just around that, I was finishing up that degree, William Fred Scott was leaving. And the guys asked if I wanted to come back and audition for the music director spot. And I'm so thankful they did. This is an absolute dream job for me, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, it sounds like you've certainly had quite the journey and ended up in a really fun and I'm sure self-fulfilling spot for you. Why don't we dig in a little bit to the history of Chanticleer? Can you give us a bit of the Chanticleer past and explain the mission of the ensemble?
Yeah, totally. Chanticleer was founded here in San Francisco in 1978. And back then it was a collection of singers from the symphony chorus and the Grace Cathedral choir up on the hill. And I think it was just a handful. The current group is 12, but it wasn't that many back then. And they decided to get around a dining room table one evening, eat a meal together, and then sing some Renaissance music together, sight reading some polyphony and some madrigals together. And And I can really resonate with that story because I have done many evenings like that myself. And to think that Chanticleer arose from those sort of beginnings is really exciting and really sort of speaks to the desire and drive and love of music from the very beginning. So at that point, there were a number of singers in the ensemble. It sort of grew from there, from just like one show in 1978 or maybe one or two, and then gradually became noticed by more and more people as a very unique sound. Our founder was a man named Louis Botto, and it was sort of his vision from the beginning to create a professional American vocal ensemble featuring countertenors, tenors, and basses, really specifically to sing some of this early music that would have been sung in churches by choirs of men and boys. And then, as anybody who's familiar with Chanticleer now knows, we sing pretty much every kind of repertoire that we can get our hands on. And that's in large part due, well, to many reasons, but in large part due to a music director who came after Lewis, a man named Joseph Jennings. And he started with the group, became music director in 1983, so just a few years after the group started. And he brought with him a whole host of other talents and skills, including music from his upbringing, a lot of spiritual arrangements and gospel numbers, and a jazz background as well. It sort of opened up the repertoire of the group to so many more styles and genres. And we've built on that history since then. And a large part of what we do now, in addition to all that music, is commissioning. We commission new works every year by contemporary classical composers. And it's a thrill for me to be able to sing sort of every and work on every kind of music under the sun. That's a little bit of the history. There's a little more in there too, but that's the gloss.
And Joseph Jennings, if I remember, was who I worked with when I was in high school. So he was a long-standing artistic director and music director with Chanticleer, because I remember performing and preparing Elijah Rock to sing for the
Yes.
Chanticleer High School Choral Ensemble Festival. And
Yeah.
then I remember that, Juana Baraka, some of these real spiritual and kind of worldly pieces that I hadn't been exposed to until I must have been 13, 14 years old. And that was really cool.
Yeah, he was a music director, I think, for 25
Yeah.
years. And he's responsible for the two Grammys that the ensemble has won, and it was just a musical force. And I've never had the opportunity to work with him, but his legacy reverberates today in throughout the ensemble and the people who worked with him.
And I'm sure it's really cool to be able to take, your founding member and Ben Joseph, all the musical and artistic directors' paths and journeys have stuck, because it's not like you're no longer performing the polyphony and madrigals. It's not like you're no longer performing the spirituals. They've all become part of the core of Chanticleer, and you see that throughout your concerts, which we'll touch upon program in a little bit.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Now, how would you describe your artistic vision versus other music directors before you? Do you lean on them for inspiration? Do you have these like foundational things that you want to implement? What are some examples of that?
My background is as a like a early music countertenor, essentially. I've always had a love for all other genres and styles, but that's not where that's not what I was doing in New York City before Chanticleer. I was singing like Baroque music and Renaissance polyphony. And so if I had to pick like a genre that I felt most at home in, it would probably be that. And one of my goals in my time with Chanticleer is to bring back some of these early music bona fides to the ensemble and just like highlight this side of our abilities. So we just recorded last year an entire album of medieval music by Guillaume de Machaut. It's not released yet, but like really excited about that. And as a sort of it's a bit of a statement on how Chanticleer sings early music and the sort of the ways you can make early music feel incredibly present and personal. So one of the things I really like to do is take a piece of Renaissance polyphony and put it side by side with a contemporary piece of music and say, look, like, yes, they're different styles, but humans have always been humans.
Right.
And a lot of the feelings and emotions that are present in this early music are exactly the same as in this piece of pop music or this, vocal jazz piece. And try to do it in a way that's not too jarring, but that really highlights that connection because that's what's so thrilling. And that's, you talk about the history of the ensemble. That's what makes Chanticleer, I think, so unique is that it's 12 singers and every iteration of the group is different. But just like how as music has this through line of shared human emotions, Chanticleer has this through line of not only shared musical experiences, but this sort of quote unquote Chanticleer sound. that
Oh
we
yeah.
sort of manage to capture every single year, even though people come and go. It's something that is just it's really thrilling to work with. So that's where I come from, the sort of early music side of things. Something I try to focus on is this also this commissioning of new works and finding composers with really specific voices, whether that's harmonic or textural, that really have something to say about the current world we're living in, but also something to say about like the art of music making in general. I love finding composers who are working in a sound world that is feels totally new and totally fresh. That's I think all composers try to do that, I'm sure. But it's really fun to work with new composers on brand new pieces. That's one of my favorite parts of the job is bringing a new work of music to life. It's like a lot of responsibility and it's so much fun.
And I'm sure these things, like whether it's a new commission or an older piece, they need to be able to speak to you before you translate that to both the group and then the public as well, because they got to have a pull to your heartstrings and your background and your meaning for the program or the year at large.
Yeah, absolutely. And finding that truth and that emotion and figuring out ways to share that with the ensemble and with the audience, that's really where it's like, oh, we're going to slow down right here because this is what this text is about. And oh, we're going to make this part louder and we're going to like sing this vowel this way to highlight this sonority. That's what makes that exploration process so fun.
And we've talked to different people in the music world on this podcast before. We've talked to some symphony leaders, we've talked to some, orchestral conductors and composers. But what's so different about your group is you're not performing these large format pieces. You're not singing a Mahler, you're not singing a Beethoven. You're putting together this whole thing, which is a 90-minute program, but you're singing shorter pieces anywhere from 3 to probably 12 minutes long. And so being able to find the things that are varied in tone, tempo, and voice are important.
Yeah, I think that's a very astute observation. I do think that's one of the hardest parts, but also most fulfilling parts of my job is crafting a program, a complete program out of these 3 to 4 minute chunks. Because it really does require a lot of research. Watching a clip of this, I have all these filing cabinets in my office of all this repertoire that Chanticleer's performed in our 48-year history, and finding how those like 3, 4, 5, 6 minute chunks can be strung together into something that feels cohesive and tells a story.
How do you approach that? Whether it's a single concert or an overarching season, like what are you looking for, whether it's digging through the file cabinets or the MP3s or just sourcing ideas? I'm sure the 12 voices in your choir all have ideas as well. So do you lean on them for support or ideas? How do you approach it?
My title is music director. I often say that I'm more music facilitator because Chanticleer's an unconducted ensemble, or at least this current iteration is an unconducted ensemble, and it's like chamber music. And so my job is and they're all brilliant musicians. It's 12 brilliant musicians and brilliant singers, and so my job is to sort of lead everybody through a group discussion, a group rehearsal. Of course, I have lots of ideas, and I think things should go this way, things should go this way. But really, the goal is that the product feels like we've come to an agreement as a whole because we do these shows so many times, and it's got to feel like there's ownership over the whole process. And there's lots of things they know that I don't know. As I said, I'm the early music guy. But we have people who are musical theater or people who are vocal jazz, and I have to lean on them in order to make a compelling program. Because turns out I don't know everything as much as I would love to. And I'm just so lucky to have 12 other people in the room with me who have lots of ideas.
And from what it sounds like, you've been going for Baroque as it might be for so long that it's important to pull from all these other resources like the musical theater types, the church choirs, and the jazz ensembles.
Oh, yeah.
And you've
Oh,
been a
yeah.
singer in the ensemble yourself. How does that personal experience influence your leadership style and your relationship with the current singers?
Yeah, I'm a singer sort of first and foremost, and I'm a countertenor as well. So there are 6 countertenors in Chanticleer, and I think having that perspective, having sung in the group, knowing how a countertenor voice works and what the rigors of a Chanticleer touring schedule are like. It's not just like we're rehearsing for 3 concerts in the fall. It's like, oh, we're gonna do 90 concerts this whole year. Or at Christmas time, we do somewhere between 20 and 25 concerts between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so how do you craft a program that you can that is not only compelling and exciting, but that actually you can do every single night, like, 8 times in a row or whatever it is. And so having that sort of singer background, I think does help in that respect. And also, I know a lot of the singers in the group from my time as a singer in the group, so I'm also a really close friendship with everybody in the ensemble, especially those who I've just been with since my first year in 2017. And so that is. Also comes with its own challenges, being a leader, but also trying to be friends with everyone has its own sort of pluses and minuses, but generally, I think it's a really good thing to just be on par with everybody in the group and know what they're talking about and understand where they're coming from.
Now, can you pull back the curtain a little bit about the audition process for Chanticleer? Can you tell us what's it like? Can you give us an understanding of what you're looking for in a singer as music director? What backgrounds you touched a little bit about how everybody has a different background, but why don't you let us know and what the audition process is like?
Yeah, sure. I have my perspective, and I'm sure everybody in the ensemble would give you their perspective on what they're looking for. And so it's not a completely unilateral decision when it comes to auditioning new members. But some of the things in general that we all look for are an ability to sing with Chanticleer. Chanticleer is a very sort of specific sound, and so one of the things that we're looking for at the very onset is like, does your sound blend with the group? Of course, as I said earlier, Chanticleer is always evolving, but there is a specific sort of Chanticleer sound that we like to fold people into without losing their own artistry and stylistic diversity, because that's also what makes Chanticleer unique. I always say it's 12 solo singers that come together to create a single sound. So we're not looking for somebody who is only going to blend. We need somebody who can come in, fit into the sound, and then step out and be a soloist in their own right and share their unique sound with our audiences. So this ability to go back and forth, which is very difficult actually. So that's, the sort of vocalism side of things. There's a musicianship side of things because we do go through so much music. There's not always a lot of time to get things learned and up and running. And so, there's a lot of sort of like for the in-person final round of auditions here in San Francisco, we have I'd sort of just hand everybody a big binder of music and we just sight read for essentially for 3 hours straight and sing a bunch of things.
Every musician's dream, huh?
Yeah, 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 yeah. But then the last sort of like pillar here is collegiality, or who you are as a person. And are you someone that we can, work with day in and day out, do a 4-hour drive through the snow to sing a show and not you want to, rip your head off or something
Or a
like that.
12-hour flight around the
Yeah,
world.
well,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, exactly. So because we spend so much time with each other that we really everybody needs to be kind of level-headed and easy to work with, and while also having a perspective on the music we're singing, and that's such a difficult overlapping Venn diagram to have drama and passion and a perspective, and at the same time be able to see other people's drama and passion and perspective and meld those two together.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like you always are in focus about trying to ensemble the most kind of close knit, but also individually unique group as possible, as long as the voices fit. And also, as you said, can stand out. I mean, I remember the Eric Alatorre days and the deep resounding bass notes. And then I've come to some of your concerts in previous years where the countertenor notes soar and you can really pick maybe not the individual voices, but the individual voice parts out and really lock in on those. And for any
Yeah.
of our listeners out there who have never experienced a Chanticleer concert, we're about to talk about their concerts in depth, but I urge you to listen to one of their albums and then really consider coming out to one of their concerts because they are an experience. They're not just a concert, they're a full on experience.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where are some of the most unique places you've performed, whether it's a church, whether it's an outside venue? I'd love to hear some of the more unique, more quirky places or most sound enriching places you've performed.
Yeah, we've performed, so many places all over the world, and the first place that comes to mind is my very first concert with Chanticleer in 2017 when I was singing with the group was in a salt mine in Poland.
No way.
Yeah, it was a church carved out of this salt mine. You have to take this elevator down, and it was a glorious church. Catholic church, and amazing acoustics. Felt slightly claustrophobic, but it was very well lit. And yes, the walls did taste like salt. I will not tell you how I know that. Um, but yeah, that's one of them. And there's the other some of our other favorite places come up actually in Christmas, the Christmas season, our Christmas tours. We sing in a church in New York City, St. Ignatius on 81st and Park. That is just such a unique atmosphere, being in New York City for that concert. Great acoustic. St. Ignatius here in San Francisco is another one of our favorite venues, not only because it feels like home, but it is just genuinely such a beautiful space to sing choral music. And we always, sing the Bible Ave Maria from the balcony at the beginning of the second half of that show, and the lights are down, and it just fills this giant cathedral, this giant church with this wash of sound. It's so, so stunning.
Now, speaking of the Christmas concerts, they're coming up. We're in the thick of the holiday season here. Can you give us a sneak peek at the Christmas concert? What can audiences expect? Why should this be the holiday concert to attend if they're going to pick just one?
What makes this holiday concert so special is that it features actually the entirety of our brand new Christmas album that we just released on Halloween. And it features some early music by Palestrina, who, by the way, is celebrating we're celebrating the 500th anniversary of Giovanni Pierluigi da Palestrina's birth this year. So some early music on that album and on the concert, as we always do at a Chanticleer Christmas. And then some brand new arrangements done for Chanticleer in the past couple of years, both by some outside arrangers and six new arrangements done by members of the ensemble and myself that I think are, nobody writes for Chanticleer like somebody in Chanticleer because they really know the voices I like. And so those carols are, I'm super excited to share those with audiences this year. And then on top of that, so we have our early music, new arrangements of carols. There are two brand new works, two brand new classical commissions on this program and on this album by the British composer Joanna Marsh. And she has managed to create this sort of perfect winter vibe in these brand new pieces that I'm really, well, we can talk about it a little more if you want, but I'm really excited for audiences to hear them.
Now, speaking of assembling the lineup for a Christmas concert, Christmas concerts are full of, revisiting tradition, timeless classics, versus your one-off shows during the season. What do you look for to keep things fresh? Is it new arrangements, revisiting classics, digging into the historical archives of madrigals and cantatas? How do you find that perfect balance and mix?
Well, for Christmas, it is a balance, because one of the things that I think makes Christmas, in general, so special for a lot of people is the tradition. And so, what is actually the same year to year that we can, that feels familiar and that feels good and that feels nostalgic. And so we do try to lean into that familiarity year to year with Chanticleer, and that comes for the structure of the Christmas concert. So we always start with Gregorian chant by candlelight in the darkness as we process in to set a winter mood. This sort of like shortest days of the year, cold, maybe not so cold in California, but you know what I mean. And we start with this early music that really is very transports people, I think, to another world, a very contemplative place. Really highlights the sort of mystery and wonder of the Christmas and winter season. And so that's sort of always the same year to year. Then the lights come up and things get more joyful. And the beginning of the second half of the program every year begins with, as we were talking about, Franz Biebel's Ave Maria. This has become a Chanticleer classic. We've sung it at every Christmas show for the past, I don't know, 25, 30 years. But there's a reason. It's because it's so special. And so that is always the centerpiece of our Christmas concerts. And then we always end our Christmas concerts with another Chanticleer tradition started by Joseph Jennings, a medley of Christmas spirituals that he has arranged. And he's arranged so many of them for the group that every year is a little bit different. And we'll add in different pieces or subtract pieces depending on the current lineup of the group. And so those are the three pillars, the sort of candlelight procession, Viva Ave Maria, spiritual. And then in between is where all of these fresh pieces come from. And that's where the freshness of the season and the sort of rejuvenation comes in. So we have brand new arrangements of carols this year. Joy to the World and Ding Dong Merrily on High and Good King Wenceslas and Oh Come All Ye Faithful, as well as an arrangement I did of an Appalachian folk tune called And the Trees Do Moan, which is a piece I had not been familiar with until last year when I stumbled upon its melody, but is fits right in with all those other hymns and carols. And then yeah, then the new commissions by Joanna Marsh sort of rounding out the whole set.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic program, and I'm sure anybody who's a fan of Christmas music and is curious about these new commissions and ways to just feel festive and warm during the winter season should latch on and come out and experience it for themselves. And speaking of which, I know you are coming to St. Vincent de Paul, and the ensemble's performed its Christmas concert there for many years. Can you speak to why you keep coming back to this special place year after year, and any comparisons it might have to other Bay Area venues?
We love coming to Petaluma for Christmas. And A, because we don't get up there very often throughout other times of the year, so it feels good to go back there at Christmas time. But also the that church is such a pleasure to sing in. It's a very intimate space. It's not a huge church, but the acoustics are brilliant. And it's always as a music director, I always sit in the back usually, and seeing the ensemble walk down the aisle at Petaluma is just very magical. It's a very intimate version of the Chanticleer Christmas. It's not like the giant St. Ignatius here in San Francisco, which has its own sort of wonder and awe, but the concert in Petaluma feels almost like you're like sharing something with your close friends or close family. It's like we're experiencing this very intimate version of this. It starts out honestly like very sort of spiritual, and to be able to feel that closeness as opposed to some sort of like grandeur, I think is what makes Petaluma so special and so much fun to perform.
Now,
Yeah.
switching gears a little bit, talking about Chanticleer's philosophy on commitment to education and community engagement. They've always been involved. As I said, I was part of a high school choir festival with Chanticleer years and years ago, and I'm sure initiatives like that are still ongoing. What's your personal philosophy on that commitment? And can you tell us a little bit about how the group is engaged in the community and education engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. Education is such a big part of what we do. And it's so important to all of us in Chanticleer. I think we could all list a handful of moments from our youth growing up where we either heard a concert or worked with a teacher or performed somewhere that really stuck with us and made us choose the path of music. And we just really feel like it's our responsibility as people in these positions now to share as much of that inspiration as we can with young musicians around the country. So we do a lot of that when we're on tour. So we're on the road maybe about 6 months out of the year, and everywhere we go, we often have a workshop with either a high school or a college choir, master class, something like that. Oftentimes at the same school that we are performing later that evening, we'll work with the students beforehand, sometimes even performing with them on stage. And we also do that here in the Bay Area as well. We do a Bay Area outreach every fall and every spring, and visit. I wish we could visit more schools, but we try to visit a handful in the fall and in the spring, and either go and work with these students. Like we were just at Campo Lindo High School over in the East Bay, not a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, at Albany High School. Over in Berkeley, just also on that same day. And we either do like master classes with the students where we work with them on the music they're singing and try to help them, perform better, sing better. Or we give what we like to call like our interactive concerts where it's like a more accessible version of a Chanticleer concert. So it's, 50 minutes long, and we sing highlights and we interact with the ensemble, the students in front of us, asking them questions, drawing out, highlighting parts of the music that they should listen for, talking a little bit about the history of the music that we're singing, and try to get them to feel a little bit of that energy and joy from an insider's perspective that I think really goes a long way. And the last thing I'll add is we also do a youth choral festival every other year in San Francisco, where we invite Bay Area high schools to come and sing with us for an entire day. So we'll do workshops, we'll group rehearsals in the morning on tutti pieces. We'll workshop with them on their repertoire in the afternoon, and then in the evening we share the stage with them and sing a concert with all these high school singers side by side with them. And that is the thing that always resonates the most with young singers is getting to stand right next to a singer in Chanticleer and feel, not only hear, but feel what's possible with the human voice. I know the first time you mentioned Eric Alatorre earlier, the first time I heard him speak, so that you can feel in your body. And I was like, wow, I had no idea that was possible. And it goes with every voice part in Chanticleer. It's just you don't know what's possible until you hear it, until you feel it right next to you.
I completely agree because that was an experience for me. That was the exact workshop that I took part in, getting to perform for and with Chanticleer. And it was just such a transformative experience as somebody who was entering the world of performing arts from a young age and growing up with Chanticleer. I performed with them. I ushered at concerts for part of my community service hours in my music program, which was something that I'm really grateful that my high school director asked us to do, was go out there and do what he called service learning, something related to music for each
Mm.
semester. And so I fulfilled my hours by volunteering at radio stations or music shops or ushering for Chanticleer's concert at St. Vincent de Paul. So I've always had the connection with your group, and it's been a very special connection. And I'm very happy to be home for the holidays for the first time in quite a few years, and being able to come hear your Christmas concert for the first time in a while will be very special to me.
Yeah, I love this story, and I'm so glad that you are going to be able to join us. I can't wait to see you in person.
Absolutely. A couple questions as we start wrapping up here. Some get to know Tim Keeler questions. You know,
Sure.
you're a busy guy. You are rigorously touring and leading this group and making ends meet with everybody and trying to meet all the demands and needs of the individual venues and artists. How do you find time to have music and joy meet for you in the middle? Where do you let it, how do you not let it get overwhelming to the business side of it? You know?
Yeah, it's hard, and there are some days where I sort of sometimes even forget that we're doing music, and then but I every time without fail, I end up either at rehearsal or at a sound check, and I hear the ensemble, and I am always every single time there is a moment or maybe an entire rehearsal where I just feel like I just am reminded of why we're doing what we're doing because the either it's either the music or the performance or the emotion involved, it becomes so just overwhelmingly self-apparent, self-evident, the sort of joy and the importance and the beauty of what we do. So that's inescapable. But there is something about the like music in particular that it like transcends the sort of public version of it that is purely personal for everybody in Chanticleer and every musician. There's like that nugget of truth that like keeps you rooted to it. And for me, that often has to do with the text behind the music we're singing. Something about the text will always draw me back to that truth of the music. And if I can just remind myself of that and focus in on that, sometimes it just slaps you over the head, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't. This is
Absolutely.
glorious. Yeah.
Now, speaking of slapping you over the head, is there a specific choral work that is just transportive to you and why?
Yes, and so there are so many, if I were to like really nerd out for a second, there's a Salve Regina by William Cornish, which is an early Tudor piece of polyphony. I think it's like maybe 9 minutes long. And this is like one of my all-time favorite pieces of Renaissance music. So there's a recording by the Cardinals Music. I'll go recommend that to anybody listening. And okay, so that's one thing. But that's always very transportive for me. I've been so Christmas focused for so long, and there's a couple tracks on this new Christmas album that I've listened to this album so many times in the editing and mixing process, and there are a couple that I still get just sort of like very choked up over. And honestly, one of those is Adam Brett Ward. He's our countertenor, one of our countertenors in the group. His arrangement of Joy to the World, which is what the title track of the album, gets me every time. Takes you on such a journey. It's not just, your standard version of the hymn, which can feel, sometimes you even just forget what it's about. But Adams starts in a very contemplative space. And there's even it starts out actually the melody comes in the key of C minor, and you're like, where are we? But it's very deliberate, and it takes you on this journey from maybe that darkness and that cold winter feeling to something that is purely exuberant and purely joyful, and I love that journey every single time.
And it sounds like the journey of experiencing a Chanticleer concert.
Yes, exactly.
So I think
Encapsulated.
that's a great way to get our listeners to get out there and support Chanticleer, support your local Bay Area artists this holiday season. If you can make it out to their concert at St. Vincent de Paul or any of the other locations they have around the Bay Area this December, please do. Please also consider going and either streaming or buying their new album, Joy to the World, that is out now for your listening pleasure. If you'd like the concert so much, you might want to have that at-home version of it. And Tim, this was fantastic to speak with you. I can't wait to get out and celebrate with Chanticleer this holiday season. And if there's anything else you want to let our listeners know before we wrap up here, the floor is yours.
No, that's great. Just looking forward to seeing everybody, see you, Alo, and seeing everybody else at our shows in the Bay Area. It's all on our website, chanticleer.org. You can find all the dates there. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Tim. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thanks to that interview with Tim, I can't help but be in the mood for some Christmas tunes. As he mentioned, Chanticleer just released their new Christmas album, Joy to the World, and before we sit and crack one open together, let's have a listen to one of the tracks. Perhaps you just might hear the song at their concert series coming up. Oh, and your host has another special surprise for you. A ticket giveaway to their 7:30 p.m. Petaluma concert on Thursday, December 18th. We have 2 tickets for a lucky winner, but you must be following us on Instagram. So while you're sitting back and listening to the beautiful harmonies, click on over and make sure you're giving @pod_locally a follow so you can enter to win. Please enjoy a new arrangement of Joy to the World from the titular album. interviews are done, which means I think it's time to crack one open. Interviews make me thirsty, and I want you thirsting for knowledge about some great beer, both local and not so local. Each week, I'll introduce you to a beer I find discussion-worthy and explain the nuances of what makes it fantastic in my eyes and why you should give it a try. And just to keep it on point, I'll even try to make sure the beer reflects the vibe or theme of the episode. After an interview about all things Christmas music, it just got me in the festive mood, and I went out in search of holiday beers to try. Now, do I snag one from San Francisco, where Chanticleer is based? Do I find one from a Petaluma brewery where the concert is? While beer shopping is always pleasurable, it does always present quite the conundrum when there's just so much great stuff and on-theme beers out there. But then, out of the corner of my eye did appear was a festive-looking can that was quite obviously trying to pay homage to a classic holiday beer, one a lot of us all remember and miss, Anchor Christmas Ale. A green can labeled Distinctive Holiday Beer was just begging to be picked up, and so I snagged a 4-pack and came home to crack one open. The style? Well, a quite distinctive holiday beer. The brewery? Cloudburst Brewing out of Seattle, Washington. Now, this beer was pouring a dark brown with a mocha head that had so many notes of holiday spice and everything nice to it. In the style of a winter warmer and a notch under 7% alcohol, it won't knock you off your feet, but perhaps give you a reason to kick them up onto the couch and pair the beer with a festive flick or perhaps Christmas album of your choice. I hope you love the holiday season and all the special releases this time of year as much as I do. I know that it's a time for reminiscing, and this beer makes me think fondly of Anchor Brewing while enjoying something well-made from a brewery that I'd never tasted something from before. A huge thanks to Tim Keeler for chatting with me today. Don't forget to head to Instagram and enter our giveaway. Cheers from your host until next week, and happy holidays. This Must Be the Place is produced by our friends at Pod Locally, an audio platform helping local voices connect to their communities. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment on all your favorite podcast apps, and visit the show notes for more information, links, and resources. Look out for our next drop on Sunday. Until then, I'm your host, Alo Galinsky, saying have a great week.